any of these things or in any of these things. So, in that context, Railaodinga was going to export to Addis Ababa, to the AU, and to the AUC, all the bad manners that he has learned and is perpetuating in Kenya. Number three, point number three. The glorious, heroic Gen Zs of Kenya went to the streets in 2024, June 25th. Our revolutionary Gen Zs mobilized, organized, and opposed the Finance Bill 2024. They mobilized, they protested, they took over parliament, and they stopped Ruto in his tracks. Ruto was in the process of implementing the most punitive IMF-imposed conditions of taxation without representation, of taxation without benefit, of taxation without rights, of being turned slaves in your own country. And after that happened, and Ruto was just about to be removed from his legitimate perch at the State House, Railaodinga went behind the Gen Z's backs and did a deal, an evil contract, an arrangement with the abductor and the chief mass murderer in East Africa, the most corrupt man in Africa, the second most corrupt man in the entire world, William Kipchirchir Ruto, stood in front of the entire world at the KICC and announced that he was going to support Ruto. He didn't care that Ruto had murdered hundreds of Gen Zs after the protest, during the protest, and in days after that has perpetrated a systematic abduction of young people, disappeared them, tortured them, and continues to kill many of them. Raila didn't care about that. Raila didn't care about the real grievance that led to the Gen Z revolution. The fact that the Gen Zs, more than 65% of them, highly qualified, young with a lot of energy and vision, are unemployed. And there are no reasonable prospects that they will get employment this year, next year, the year after, 10 years from now. That is not in the plan of these power barons, the bandits in Nairobi. And the Gen Zs could see that and said, look, we own the country. Kenya does not belong to William Ruto. Kenya belongs to 56, 60 million Kenyans, 65% of whom are Gen Zs or younger. These are the owners of the country. These are the people that the future belongs to, not the renegades, not the old people that have looted and are going to die in a few years anyway. But no, Raila did not stand with the Gen Zs. Raila did not stand with the future. Raila stood with his stomach. Raila stood with his greed. Raila stood with his conmanship and arrogance and said he was going to join Ruto in cracking down on the critics of the government. That's point number 3. Having betrayed the Gen Zs, crack down. Having betrayed the Gen Zs who had shed blood while campaigning for their rights, having betrayed the Gen Zs that were just about to lead an overhaul, a complete transformation of the Kenyan rotten political system. Having betrayed the Gen Zs that were leading the revolution, Raila Odinga could not be elected in Addis Ababa, because that would be a bad betrayal for the entire Gen Zs in the African continent, which is probably 70% of the population of the African continent, billions of people. The African Union is supposed to be the body that symbolizes, that epitomizes the unity, even if it is rhetorical unity of the African continent, of the African people. And that unity is supposed to be unity of purpose. It's supposed to be unity of a vision for a freer, a more prosperous, a liberated African continent. It's supposed to be a unity of values or in values. Values of freedom, values of liberation, values of prosperity, values of love, values of everything good. It cannot be values of theft, values of looting, values of plutocracy, values of tyranny, values of barbarism, values of retrogression, values of primitivity, values of torture, values of abduction, which is what Ruto symbolizes in Africa today. Ruto is an existential threat to all the positive values that Pan-Africanists stand for. Raila Odinga is Ruto's chief facilitator in Kenya, in the African region. If you want to understand how Raila Odinga is so corrupt and a conman, look at even the way that he relates to the regional leaders of Africa. Take the DRC. Raila Odinga was supposed to be the greatest friend for Felix Tshisekedi, who is the president of DRC Congo. He wanted, and he was actually doing smuggling of Congo's minerals, gold, diamonds. Raila Odinga is a multi-billionaire, okay, in dollar terms, because of corruption, because of smuggling, because of money laundering, because of plutocracy that he has been engaging in. So he's a friend of Tshisekedi. Tshisekedi has visited him, even at home in Karen. But in the recent past, Raila Odinga has been supporting Kagame, who is being backed by the Western imperialists to destabilize Congo so that they can continue to loot Congo's minerals. So you can see that he doesn't care about friendship. He doesn't care about the fact that the Congolese have been suffering for the last 60 years. He doesn't care that the West don't really give a damn about Africa. Trump doesn't give a damn about Africa. And all the Western leaders don't give a damn about Africa. They care about how much they can extract from the African continent. In fact, if you listen to Trump recently, he said he wants South African white, the Boers, the people who perpetrated apartheid for 100 years, the people who have looted 90% of the land in South Africa and the minerals, and who have never worked, who have treated black people like dogs, even worse than dogs. In fact, black people in South Africa are worse than domestic dogs in South Africa. The South African domestic dogs, the dogs in South Africa belonging to white people, are fed better, are housed better, are treated better, and are considered higher in terms of hierarchy than the African black South African. Trump said he wants to give a free although he's saying everybody should leave the United States who came to the United States illegally, the only group of people that he would allow, without even requiring them to apply for a visa, is a South African Boer, a South African white. Which means that to Trump, black people are not human beings. Anybody other than white person is not a human being. And he said, white South Africans will be able to come to the United States without a requirement of a visa. But all the Africans that are in the United States who should be given a visa because they immigrated there, they're contributing to the economy of the United States. And by the way, 90% of the people working jobs that are building and have built the economy of the United States are people of color, Africans. The United States became rich because of slave labor, African slave labor, free labor, slavery built South Africa, built the United States. The skyscrapers you see in New York, Los Angeles, okay, that you see in Chicago and some major US cities, these were constructed by Africans without payment. They did it without remuneration. They did it while living in conditions worse than conditions of a pig. Trump's father and grandfather, great-grandfather, came to the United States illegally. They came out of European prisons and were given two options. You either stay in Europe in jail or you go to the Americas. And that's the only freedom you can get. They opted to sail to the Americas. This land, North America, does not belong to white people. It belongs to indigenous Indians, the so-called First Nations. So don't buy this BS of Musk and Trump that somehow they own North America. They don't. They don't have more rights to North America than Africans. So if they can claim North America, Africans have the right to claim North America because they built it, okay, with their blood. So I was talking about South Africa and Kenya's position vis-a-vis South African liberation and freedom. During the struggle for apartheid, Kenya supported the white supremacist apartheid system in South Africa. Kenya did not contribute 1 cent towards the South African struggle. Kenya gave refuge to South African Boers, the whites who are oppressing South African blacks in South Africa. Kenya did not join Tanzania to train, to give logistical and material support and military support like the frontline nations, countries like Zambia, Zimbabwe, and after Mozambique became independent, Mozambique, Angola. No, Kenya did not participate in that. Kenya undermined and subverted the liberation struggle in South Africa. And don't think South Africans have forgotten that. South African blacks have not forgotten that. And please don't give me this nonsense about look how they are treating us. They call you makwerekwere in South Africa. So why do you need to go to South Africa to be called makwerekwere when you can stay in your own country and build it? You don't have to go to South Africa. You don't have to go to the US. You don't have to go anywhere. We can build our country and make it more prosperous than South Africa. And South Africans who are calling you makwerekwere are just as illiterate and retrogressive like Railaodinga or William Ruto, because they also do not like other Africans. They prefer white people and Indians. Look at the deals, the scandals that they are perpetrating in Kenya. Who is it that they're doing it with? Adani. Adani is not an African. He's not a South African. He's an Indian. Jayesh. That's not an African. That's not a South African. Another Indian. And many others. To them, Kenya is just a ground, a fertile ground for exploitation. And where are they taking all the money that they have stolen from us? Dubai. The United Arab so-called republic or whatever it is, it's kingdom. These people who, even as we speak, are supporting Trump's plan of ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from Palestine and taking them out so that Trump and them, the billionaires, can build a Riviera on Palestinian land so that they can make billions. They are not even satisfied with the one they have stolen. So in other words, Railaodinga represents the worst of the worst in the entire world, the scum of the earth. So what does this defeat mean? And why am I happy about his defeat? Railaodinga's defeat means money cannot buy you everything. That's number one. Okay? And we must underline this. Okay? Real power does not come from money. The first thing is this, the brain. Essentially, I've been able to defeat Railaodinga, and I don't have the billions. I don't have the platforms they have. I don't have the power they have. But I have this, which they cannot take away from me. I've been posting, I've been lobbying, I've been deconstructing, I've been exposing Railaodinga 24/7. I've written to all the presidents of Africa. Meaning of his defeat, if you are ideologically clear, if you are completely committed, if you are focused like a laser beam, if you are consistent, if you are truthful, if you have integrity, and if you are fearless, you will succeed no matter the amount of power they put to challenge you. That's what we have demonstrated. We have demonstrated to Ruto that yes, he may have guns, yes, he has zombies, he can command bloggers and muzzle men to abduct, yes, he has the National Intelligence Service. Yes, he has a lot of billions that he has looted and plundered. Yes, he has the ability to fly all over the African continent and abroad. Yes, he can bamboozle and he can try to threaten and intimidate, but in the end, it is truth that prevails. You can do all these other things, but in the end, truth prevails. All right? So that's number two. Lesson number two. Lesson number three. The record that you leave behind, the record of evil doing, the record of betrayal, the record of retrogressive politics perpetrated consistently and persistently by these renegades, by these bandits, must and will be punished today, not in the next generation. So impunity will and does not fly. People thought, who are you? You don't vote at the AUC. Only heads of state vote there. You are going to fail. You are just bitter. Well, the fact of the matter is that we did prevail. The fact of the matter is that the small man matters. The fact of the matter is that in the end, people will remember and will see in good time crooks versus righteous people. They will be able to distinguish them. And the moment they distinguish and they find out that one is a crook, they will not support that, the majority of people. Of course, you still have 20 states that supported railaodinga. It doesn't matter. In the end, who surrendered? Who was defeated at the AUC? It was railaodinga. It was not Mohammed Yusuf. It was railaodinga. But who was bamboozling us all over with private jets that cost 8 million per hour? It was railaodinga. Who took 300 plus, lunatics to go and dance in Addis Ababa and play music, Lingala, and go into 5-star hotels, and try to impress the world with their ridiculousness? It was railaodinga and William Ruto. Where did that take them? To the dustbin of history. Okay? Just like it did to Uhuru Kenyatta when Uhuru Kenyatta tried to sell Amina Mohammed. So whether Uhuru Kenyatta, whether it is Ruto, whether it is whoever, impunity will not prevail. Number 3, if Railaodinga had managed with Ruto to win the AUC chairmanship, he would have, or they would have been able to create a myth and mythology around Railaodinga. The enigma, the rubbish, a person who never succeeds. Who never succeed.